Hello. I know. It's so fun. I just love that music. I love it so much. It's such a great way to start the conversation and get into the energy of high vibe, positivity, love, all the beautiful things. I am so, so, so excited to have you here today, founder of Feminine Frequency, the podcast. And by the way, is that your overarching umbrella? Because I saw a couple different versions of it. And after our conversation a couple weeks ago, I did a deep dive and I'm like, that is the overarching? Can you explain that? Tell the audience who you are, what you do. I know that you guide women to embody their magnetic truth, which we're definitely going to dive way into. But talk to me a little bit about Feminine Frequency.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Feminine Frequency is all of my podcast world.
Yeah.
And the Feminine Frequency was sparked in the beginning of 2020. So
Mm-hmm.
this is the beginning of the 6th year of the podcast. And it was really
Amazing.
sparked through my own journey of recognizing that I was operating very heavily in my masculine energy. I was having really bad health issues and mental health issues. And that was impacting my frequency because I was out of alignment and I was out of balance. And so when
Yeah.
I learned how to shift into and find more harmony between my masculine and feminine energy, feminine being more flow, more intuitive, more heart-centered way of being, that I actually started to feel lighter. I started to feel more magnetic. I started to attract really incredible things into my life. And so I know there's a lot of women who are burned out, stressed out, struggling, feeling stuck, and they are disconnected from this very natural essence that is part of them because our world actually teaches us to shut that down. It doesn't encourage these attributes of the divine feminine. And again, I'm not using the words masculine and feminine as in gender roles. So if that's confusing for people, you can think of, the masculine as a more yang energy and the feminine as more yin energy, which is how they look at it when you have the yin yang symbol. Even with the yin yang symbol, you've got the black with a white dot and you've got the white with a black dot. So we have these two opposing magnetic energies and we actually need both of them. So, specifically, when female bodied women go too far into their masculine energy, it increases their cortisol, it messes with their hormones, and it really significantly impacts our health in many ways. And so, yeah, the feminine frequency is like, how do we come back into harmony with these two energies inside of us? And then how does that impact our relationships and how does it impact money and how does it impact our purpose in the world?
Yes. Okay. I love this so much. I want to rewind to you and your story. You talked about how this was born out of your experience of being disconnected and misaligned and not in that, vibrancy and that energy. So I'm curious, how did you recognize like what was going on actually inside your body? Because this whole thing, wisdom from within, is about really connecting to that wisdom. What is that wisdom? How does it talk to us? How does it teach us? Because so many people don't know how to listen because we are not taught. So this Wisdom from Within podcast is all about helping people learn how to listen to it and trust it enough to be led by it, just like you did. You heard it, you listened, and you were led. So I would love you to talk about really what were you feeling and how did you hear it and how did you come to trust it?
Yeah, I love this conversation. It feels so aligned. I was like really thinking about this earlier and this is just what I think about all the time. So I was like
Yeah.
getting out of the shower and I was like, oh, there's this framework that I really love to teach around this process. So I'll share my story first, but essentially I used to be very disconnected from my body and my body started speaking to me in the language of physical pain. So I had really bad digestive issues. I started gaining weight even though I was working out and I was, eating relatively healthy. I felt tired a lot of the time, and I was having autoimmune symptoms that, I was having flare ups with my skin, with eczema. So there was a lot of physical symptoms that were
Mhm.
and there were a lot of mental health symptoms that were presenting. So I was living very out of alignment with my truth at the time. I didn't even know what that really meant, but I
Mhm.
was essentially playing a role that I thought that I needed to play in order to receive love and acceptance from my family and from my community. And so, growing up in a more traditional religious background, it was always kind of expected of
Mm.
to marry someone of the same faith. And so there
Mhm.
I found myself with a really nice man in this life, this picture perfect life that really looked amazing on the outside. We owned a beautiful home, we had a really cute dog, we had, lots of friends, and at the time I even owned my own business. I was a nutritionist and a health coach. And, my body had been speaking to me for a long time,
Mhm.
but it wasn't really until I hit rock bottom with my mental health where I was waking up feeling like, what's the point? There has to be more than this. Like, I'm just going through the motions, and like I'm not super happy, and why are other people happy and I'm not happy, and just kind of in this really deep self-inquiry. And then
Mhm.
I was also waking up with panic attacks at 3 a.m. and waking up and just feeling like something is wrong. And I feel like it progressed into alarm bells where it's like, you can't ignore this, right? Well, you can try and numb it out. And I tried to do that. I was emotionally eating at the time. I was taking multiple medications at the time. It was very uncomfortable.
Mhm.
But the more that I learned to be with and listen to those signals, which started really through, let's say, yoga and meditation and getting quiet with myself, which was
Mhm.
very uncomfortable. And
Right.
it kind of was like waking up at 3 a.m. I felt like I had no other choice because it was just like screaming at me. My heart was racing really fast. I couldn't sleep. I felt really stressed out. And I had this battle going on inside of me of like my heart saying, hey, there's more for you. Maybe this relationship isn't right for you. Maybe this lifestyle isn't right for you.
Mhm.
And then my mind being like, you should be happy. You have everything you could ever want. You have checked all the boxes. You should be happy, and making it
Right.
something wrong with me. So I found myself in that place. And after doing a lot of personal development work, working with a spiritual mentor of mine, I ended up in the bathtub one night just being like, I am so tired of my own BS. Like, I'm so tired of feeling stuck. And I'm so tired of feeling this way. And I've exhausted all my options. And so
Mhm.
I just gave it up to God, to universe. I was like, please help me. Like, there has to be another way. Please show me where I'm meant to go and what I'm meant to do.
Mhm.
And it really was that surrendering of letting go of control and
Mhm. Mhm.
this stop trying to figure it all out, and
Mhm.
really just in this deep listening of, okay, there's something that your body is trying to tell you, that your soul is trying to tell you, and you haven't been listening.
Mhm.
And I reached that rock bottom moment where I was like, I got nothing left. Like, I can't keep going like this. And it was in that surrender that I really started to hear more of my inner voice when I was meditating. It was like really guiding me. And I started to see signs and synchronicities, and opportunities started showing up. And eventually I made the hardest decision, which was to leave my marriage, which was not just about leaving the relationship, but it was letting go of that version of myself, the people pleaser, the perfectionist, the one who wanted it to look good to get the external validation. And it was like the first time in my life where I really chose me and really
Mhm.
chose what was right for me at
Mhm.
that time. And,
Mhm.
on the other side of that, everything shifted. My whole life shifted. I started to attract really incredible friendships with women. That was something that I used to really struggle with. I started to
Wow.
attract incredible clients in my business. My income ended up doubling within 2 years of that. Um, and there was so much that opened up for me from that shift of living from what I should do and from the mind, and then starting to actually let my body lead the way, let my heart, my soul, my gut lead the way. Everything shifted when I changed that orientation.
Mm. Oh my
Mhm.
gosh, I love that so much. There are so many things in there. You talk about trust, you talk about surrender. These are very powerful, powerful, and not so difficult. I mean, not so easy to lean into and practice. I'm curious about your body. I'm curious the internal body, right? And what was going on. So you said, all of that discomfort was happening, then I'm imagining you in that bathtub and to your body with that surrender. And then on the other side of that, all of a sudden you're attracting and you're succeeding. So I'm curious about from like that body perspective, that shift from discomfort, we can imagine what that feels like and looks like. And then when you went into that surrender, what opened up? Because it sounds like when you went into that surrender, there was a shift, and maybe that's where that frequency piece comes in for you into what you do
Yeah,
for people so beautifully, is shift into that, and then what became possible. So yeah, can you speak to that journey? Does that make sense?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And I see things through the realm of energy and
yeah,
especially, yeah, how you feel it in your body. So I love that you're asking to break this down. The
yeah.
way that I like to describe it for kind of imagery for people who might be new to this, it was
Mhm.
almost like I was like carrying this heavy backpack.
Right.
And I didn't even realize that I was carrying it.
Mhm.
And inside of that backpack was shame and it was guilt and it was
Mhm.
self-judgment of I should just be happy and it was all of those things. And then when I came into this place of being like, okay, there must be a bigger plan, there must be something more for me. Like I'm going to stop trying to control it. It was almost like this big exhale, and this exhale of like, okay, I'm going to set this bag down,
Mhm.
and I'm going to allow myself to listen and to be guided. And it was like this lightness that happened, and it was this feeling for the first time in my life I could actually say, oh, I really love my life. I actually feel good in my body. I feel excited about my life right now. And it was a feeling of expansion. It was a feeling of freedom, really,
Mm.
from like
Mhm.
from carrying all of the stuff that was actually not mine to begin with, but
Mhm.
what I had inherited and what I had internalized from messages from society and religion and my family. So that's kind of the shift that changed.
Yeah.
And I will even say physically, my body changed very, very quickly in that period of time from when I decided to end the relationship of my marriage. I lost the weight that my body had been holding on to. I had way more energy. My digestive issues improved. I was no longer emotionally eating, and my whole composition, like even physiologically, because of the energetic shift, it was just like a big weight had been
Mm.
lifted. And I
Mm.
had tried everything. Like I had tried acupuncture, I had tried going on all these cleanses and all these alternative medicine things that were helpful, but only to a certain extent because
Right.
there was still energetic blockages that was happening in my body.
Mm. Mm. Okay, I have a question about those energetic blockages. So then how did you move through those?
Mhm. Yeah, I would say it's been a progression of the different techniques that I've used over
Mhm.
the years, and the really what I teach now is around feminine embodiment work, which is being in touch with the sensations in your body, being in touch with the emotions in your body, and then using breath, sound,
Mhm.
and movement
Mhm.
to be able to move those energies through your body so that they're not
Mhm.
staying stuck and stagnant. So I know
Mhm.
you use body gestures, which is and hand gestures, right? And that technique is super powerful. And my work, I really love. I grew up as a dancer. I stopped dancing for a long time because I got all in my head about it. It was all about body image and being perfect.
Right.
I stepped away from it. And then, coming back to dance, but in a way that was about somatic release,
Mhm.
where I could hear a song that might elicit a feeling of sadness or a feeling of anger or a feeling of rage. And I could actively do different motions, listen to where my body was guiding me. So maybe if I had some anger, it would be that I might be like punching the air or punching a pillow.
Right.
I might be shaking or making sound, because we move energy through sound and through breath as well.
Mm,
Or if there was sadness, it might be holding myself and rocking myself and allowing the energy of sadness to move through me.
mm,
So there's various ways where we go beyond the mind and into the body, and we're like, okay, this is just a feeling. It's a sensation. I don't need to judge it. I don't need to change it. How can I just be with it and allow it to express? And I do feel like music really helps us to access different parts of ourselves, and movement
hmm
does as well. Like when I'm dancing, and when I say dancing, it's not always like pretty and choreographed and put together, but when I'm moving my body and expressing, I
Right.
can access more joy and more play and silliness than in my everyday state of being.
Right.
Because I'm
Exactly.
fully in my body and I'm not in the thinking, am I doing it right? How does it look? And that's a practice too that I guide my clients into, is how do you actually get into your body? A lot of people are like, wow, that sounds great. But there are techniques and there are practices to help you to be in relationship with your body and to feel safe enough to allow the emotions that want to be moved or the energy that feels stuck to move. And the last piece that I'll share here is that, in this day and age, we have so much information and so many people are aware. They're aware of their patterns, they're aware of their blocks, they're aware of all the things. They've intellectualized their emotions.
hmm
That is very different than feeling your emotions and being
Yes.
with them and transmuting them and alchemizing them through these somatic techniques. And so a lot of people get stuck. They're like, oh, I'm doing all the things and I know what I'm doing wrong, but I'm still doing it. And that's because our subconscious mind, it lives in the body. So if we
hmm
really want to change things on an energetic, on a cellular level, we have to be able to come into the body, which means that we don't have to have a story about it. We don't have
Right.
to analyze it. We don't need to repeat it all the time. We just need to go into the body and feel it and process it and then move on, right?
Exactly. Well, you say I love this. I read this recently where you said true magnetism doesn't come from effort or self-improvement. It comes from safety, from presence, from feeling at home in your body again. And
Mhm.
I love that so much because we've come so far. We get so disconnected from what home really is. And so this return again, people are like, again? Oh, I thought this was the first time. It's this realization that the returning home, however we choose to get there, is the work, I believe, right? So that we can become embodied and whole on the highest level. I would love for you to just talk about, what some of those somatic, or maybe just one example of those somatic experiences that you guide people to get them to return home once again.
Yeah, beautiful. So I am trained in a modality called Embody, and it's by my teacher Nadia Moonla. And there are different formats of different sessions that I can guide women through based on what we're working on, and it can be very customized. But really, the kind of overarching format that we use is we start by creating the safety in the body, by slowing down the breath, by getting grounded, by getting centered in the here and now, and creating a space of non-judgment, which often entails closing your eyes, letting go of the sight, not having to look outside, not looking at the mirror and how you look, but really going inwards and being in a space of a supportive space that's encouraging free expression, free movement, right? So really grounding, getting dropped into the body, getting out of the mind through various different breath techniques and movements. And then we use different music and different feminine archetypes to access different parts of us that we may have suppressed.
hmm
So, for a lot of women, they have suppressed their power, they've suppressed their pleasure, and they've suppressed being playful and being alive or silly or being lighthearted. So through the journey that we take them on, we go through these different energies and these different expressions within those three areas. So if I were to say like the archetype for power is likely going to be the wild woman. It's going to be, you know, accessing these more primal movements, a little bit of heat, building a little bit of fire in the body, getting into that place of like, you know, setting boundaries, but like through the expression of, okay, I'm in my power and I'm letting go of the things that are keeping me small, that are limiting me. So that's one
Mhm.
expression. Then if
Mm.
we go into pleasure, we're going to tap more into a sensual space where we're maybe tapping into more of a sensual priestess energy where, you know, you can already see my movements are going to be different. I might be exploring touch that feels really sensual and really yummy. I might be moving my hips more in a way that feels more fluid and getting into more of that sensual nature. And
Mhm.
play, you know, it really is about, and that's going to be a little bit, could be kind of like the maiden archetype, can
Right.
be where it's like, oh, what, before you had all these responsibilities, before you had all these ways that you're supposed to do things, like how would you move to this song or this energy, this music
Right.
is inviting in more of that playful, silly energy, or
Mhm.
more of that, okay, I get to hold my inner child and hold this part of me that feels really tender right now, that feels left out, or that feels, you know, like she's not good enough. And we can use different sounds and different music to tap into those different aspects
Mm.
of our psyches.
I love that. I love that. Something else you talk about is trust, trust in the body and what it's communicating. You say remembering the erosion of who doesn't need to perform, prove, or hold it all together. So I'm curious, in these spaces, that trust factor has got to be big, because if you're inviting people to move in ways that are slightly uncomfortable, trust really has to be established. And I guess that would be an outcome of the safety that you restore first. So I'm curious about that. You know, what if a woman comes there and comes into your space and she's nervous to go this far, to really connect to these archetypes and move her body in that way? How do you invite women like that in to explore?
Yeah, beautiful question. And I think this is a really important one, is that first, I share with everyone, you don't actually have to have any dance experience. You don't have to have any somatic experience to work in this way. Like it is
Mm,
designed for, and most of the women who are seeking this type of work have already done a lot of the therapy. They've done yoga, they've done read all
mm,
the books, they've listened to the podcasts, like they're ready for something deeper. So even if
mhm.
a part of them is afraid, there's also a part of them that's guiding them to this work for a reason, because they're like,
Right.
oh, this is what I'm craving. This is my
Mm,
next level of healing and transformation, is through the body. So
mhm,
you know that everyone who's in this space is really coming in from that lens.
mm,
And one of the things that I invite at the beginning of every single class, and I will repeat it throughout the practice, is that my guidance and my cues are just an invitation.
mhm.
This practice is about listening to your body and what your body needs. And that might mean that you're moving faster, you're moving
Mm,
slower, you're doing a completely different movement than what I'm inviting you to do. And that is what I want you to listen to. And I had an experience when I was going through my embodiment training where I felt really tired one day. I really wasn't like able to get into the practice. And I felt like I was doing it wrong. And what my practice that day was laying on the ground and not doing these intense movements, and actually listening to, oh, my body feels like it needs slow, gentle movement right now.
yeah.
I'm not going to force it. And that was the practice, was listening to my body that day. Whereas other days I was able to get into these energies. So again, it isn't about forcing. It isn't
Right.
about having to do it right. It really is learning to rebuild trust, because we all come into these bodies with intelligence and wisdom that our
Mm,
bodies are giving us. And
mhm.
then we lose that trust when we go into the mind, when we follow the rules, when we are doing what other people want us to do.
Right.
And so this is, like you said earlier, it's a remembering, it's a coming home to this innate instinct that we all have in
Yeah.
our bodies already. And it's about training that connection of like, oh, I can actually trust that what my body is guiding me to do is what's best for me in this moment.
Yeah. So beautiful. So beautiful. So I what I would love to do in just the last few minutes is really circle back to the human experience of so many people that feel that disconnect and from their work, from their relationships, just not complete and misaligned. And that feeling that you had so early on, based on all of the influences that you had, which I totally get and relate to and understand. And I think so many of us can, those outside social pressures, generational practices that have just come to us, and accepting that we did take them on. They weren't just put on us. We actually, our soul at that moment allowed for it because they were lessons within that to then create this awakening and now this practice and service. But again, rewinding to that time, what would you say to the people listening around when you feel that sadness and knowing so deep inside of you that something is misaligned, but afraid to face it and instead numb it out, like you said, and do all the things to avoid? What would be an invitation for people to just get started on this path?
Mm. Yeah, I think the first piece is being honest with yourself. And I talk about these different stages of being a truth teller, living in your magnetic truth. And
Mm,
the first one is about, can I be honest that I am unhappy right now? Can I be honest that I feel like something's missing? And can I do that in a way where I'm not judging myself or making myself wrong?
mm-hmm,
If you feel like something is off, that's because something is off, something is out of alignment. And the signals that your body is giving you through pain, through emotional pain, through, feeling whatever you're feeling right now, that is wisdom and information that is guiding you. It's
mm-hmm,
not wisdom, it's not symptoms that you should, try and make it go away. And in our culture, it's very quick. We're like, okay, I'm going to have a drink. I'm going to take Advil. I'm going to drink caffeine. There's so many ways where we override those symptoms. And what I would invite is if you can create, starting with 5 minutes a day. And I always say, like, I would rather do 5 minutes a day than try and do 30 minutes and then not show up for it.
mm-hmm,
5 minutes a day of creating space to be with yourself. So that could be a mini meditation. That could be hands on your body with breathing. It could be stepping outside in the sunshine and putting your feet in the grass. 5 minutes of connection to self, at least to start with. And when we slow down and get quiet, we can start to hear, what is that inner voice trying to tell us? And the second piece that I'll share is, in this exploration of being honest with yourself, you can tell the part of yourself that feels really scared of admitting this. You can say, hey, we don't have to take action. We actually don't need to change anything at all right now. We're simply getting curious and exploring. So we're choosing no longer to ignore it. I'm just going to be present with what's here so that I can listen and see how I can start to honor that part of myself.
mm-hmm.
Because there will always be that fear of change, of the unknown, whether that's like, oh, I'm really unhappy in my job and I really want to leave. Well, what the heck am I going to do? How am I going to support myself? How am I going to survive? I'm not happy
Mm-hmm.
in this relationship. Oh my God, like I've spent so many years building this, and like, how could I leave this? I don't want to be alone. It could be, so many different things where it's like that inner voice is speaking to you. And of course, there's going to be that part that's trying to protect you. It's actually doing its job.
Right,
So if we can start to differentiate, okay, what's like my inner voice telling me, and then what is that fear telling me,
right.
and starting to give more space for
Mm-hmm.
that inner voice to speak to you, and be curious about that. That's really where I would start, is meeting your own truth.
Oh, I love that. I love it. I love it so much. I really appreciate you sharing your story. I believe so deeply that it gives other people comfort and permission to do the same. It's inside of these stories where connection happens and freedom begins to, evolve for all of us. So I appreciate you so much. Where can people find you? How can people connect with you after they listen to you here?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. And I just really want to thank everyone who's
Hmm.
watching and who's listening, and just really acknowledge you for being here and for investing your time to receive this wisdom and to start to really live from that place of truth and listening to your body. There's a few different ways that you can find me. You can find me on the Feminine Frequency podcast, which is on Spotify or Apple. That's a really great place to get started. You can find me on Instagram at Amy Natalie Co. And I have lots of great resources in the link in my bio. I have a free embodiment session and yeah, lots of other resources that you can find there. And yeah, I think those are the
Amazing.
best places to find me.
Yay! Oh my God. I'm so glad that we've connected. I think you're incredible. The work you're doing is so important. And I'm grateful for your presence today. Thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
Okay. See everybody next time on Wisdom from Within, where we connect with the most powerful source of intelligence that can really escalate our life and get us into alignment and successful with all of the things that we desire and we deserve. Okay. See you next time.